If you're planning to play in a Gothic horror campaign, you will need a character. If you plan to run one, you will need a cast of NPC and a villain. But how do you make a character Gothic? I will explain this during this video. But first, I have to give a word of warning. Especially within a Gothic campaign, your DM will draw from your background to bind you into the story. Make sure that every part of your story aligns with the lines and veils your group agreed on. Make use of the ready available safety tools within your game, and most important, decide on what's allowed and what isn't before you even start your character creation. And now, let's create your next character. Have you ever experienced those players who come to the table with their optimized character sheet and without a backstory? I did for sure, and they are not rare at all. Let's have a look at the two different approaches to character creation and where the players from this scenario jump right off the train. Generally, there are two different approaches. Some players go story first and mold their character sheet following that story. This will create deep characters with a good set of strengths and weaknesses. This doesn't mean that the other approach can't result in a well-rounded character, though. It's just the story-first, mechanics-second approach. The second approach is creating your mechanics first and mold your character backstory to that. If you follow this approach, it will result in a more optimized character because you put your mechanics first and your story will follow later on. Our example player begins with the second approach but skips the story creation at all, or will make up some generic storyline like, my parents were killed by the bad guys of this setting. For Gothic characters, you will want to follow either the first approach or a mix of both. I usually go with a mix where I will decide on a story part and then look up which mechanical element this will call for. To start building your character, you can use World Anvil. Create either a hero's character as shown in the video I link up above, or use the character article your DM assigned you. You can use the vignette at the very top or make use of the specific template parts. I would recommend using the template parts for your Gothic character. The first set of questions will give you a rough idea about your character's past. Where do they come from? Do they have a family or are they a lone wolf? Do they have a house or do they travel from city to village, always searching for a place they can call home? Start in the generic tab of your character article and fill in their place of birth and current residence. Then move on to the social tab and fill in family ties, contacts and affiliation, and of course the wealth they have available. Remember though, this is in the background and doesn't mean you will have that available in-game too. Your languages, however, belong to the mentor tab. Format them as a list as they will appear in the sidebar of your article. Think about why they lived this way. Compared to a Gothic story, this is the before of your character, and describe how they live when the story begins. These questions also inform your character species or lineage, their languages of choice, and even narrow their background or occupation choices. To fill in these details, move back to the generic tab first. Select your character species. If there is none, and you are allowed to do so, create an empty article for it. You can also fill in the age of your character if you like to. Go to the sections part of your article and pick the sidebar section. Fill in your background using the notation I am showing on screen right now. When you are done, move back to content again. Next, you will define your motivations. First, ask yourself what your character desires. What is it they would do everything for? When you have your answer, make it larger than life. Gothic is a genre of high stakes and high contrast. When compared to real-life people, Gothic characters seem to be more intense. Their desires and passions become obsessions they would sacrifice everything for. If you look at Strahd as an example, his love for Tatiana became an obsession he sacrificed everything for, including his beloved brother. The desire will belong to the personal tab of your article. Use the motivation field to describe your desire in 2 or 3 sentences. Extra cookie points for you if you include when your character developed this desire and why. Then give your character something that they regret. Think of this as the dark secret they would want to hide from everyone. Is it some failure in their past? Something they did? When you have something, make it bigger again. If you have no idea what you could put in here, think about something that is taboo in your character's culture. In a Gothic story, this could be, for example, bigamy. While this was taboo in the 19th century and is until today, you will encounter a lot of bigamists in Gothic stories. It should again be something your character would go great lengths to keep secret. This part will also live in the personal tab within the vices and flaws input. To keep this secret from your fellow players, you can hide it within a secret. If you want to do so, scroll up and click Secrets, then add your secret. Once you filled in the form and created your new secret, you will get a preview of this secret with a BB code you can copy and paste into your Vices and Flaws section. Now that we have the dark side of our character done, what do they actually enjoy? What are their passions? Do they love organ music like Strahd does? Did they attend the opera regularly in their hometown? Do they enjoy books? Give your characters something that they are passionate about, but which is not related to their desire. With this part, we will stay in the personal tab and move up to likes and dislikes. If you find it difficult to write a paragraph about your character's hobbies, just make a list. 4 to 5 hobbies and things they like will be enough. While you're at it, you can also add in the same amount of things they don't like. Time to think about how your character behaves. Do they have some habits? Think about spinning around a knife when they are thinking, or drumming the same rhythm with their fingers whenever they are angry. It could also be a melody they hum whenever they want to calm down. These patterns can be used to make a character recognizable even when no other description is provided. This information will also belong to the personal tab, more precisely the tics and quirks section of it. You don't need to fill in too much detail. 1 or 2 sentences will be enough. Then think about how your character speaks. This is not about funny accents, at least it's not solely. It's about how they want to appear and how their true self shines through. Do they use overly complex sentences to hide their upbringing in an orphanage? How does that low-class background shine through? Maybe they use certain words wrong all the time. Do they talk quickly and excited, or slowly and more thoughtful? Are they always a little absent-minded? A speech pattern is often enough to make a character recognizable, especially when combined with the little habits. Information about your speech patterns belong to the social tab. At the very bottom, you will find speech. Put the information you will need in here. Next, spend a minute or 2 figuring out why they are wherever your adventure begins and how the hell they got there. This will give you some role-playing hints early in the game and provide you with things to talk or complain about. And only when you have all of these questions answered, begin filling in your appearance. How do all these things reflect in your character's visuals? Do they have scars from their habit or dark secret? Did their before result in a specific kind of clothes or a movement pattern? Start in the mental tab and describe how they got to the adventure location in your personal history. If you don't feel comfortable with narrating it, just make a list of bullet points. From there, move on and have a look at the template prompts. Fill in any information you feel you can put in. Don't think about this too much, you already defined most of your character by now. When you're done, we move on to build the mechanics. To begin creating your character, make sure all the important elements are already present as item blocks in Foundry. If you have an active D&D Beyond and you have your contents in there, You can import them using the DDB importer module. In that case, follow these steps over on D&D Beyond and then import your character from there. In this first step, you will apply your species. You already selected that in the article part of this video, so just pick the respective stat block and drag it onto your character sheet. If it prompts any additional features like the High Elf cantrip or custom stat adjustments, pick the ones that make most sense because of your story. Think about how your character acquired this feature and maybe make a note about it. Next, you may want to decide on your class. Again, this should be narrowed down by your backstory. Which class and therefore profession would bring your desire forward? Pick that one and drag it onto your character sheet as well. Your class will provide you with a number of proficiencies. These are the skills your character needed before the game starts. Since classes have a limited list of possible skills assigned, pick some that fall into the spectrum between background-informed and desire-driven. For the additional features you may gain from your class, pick the ones that suit your backstory most. During the next step, you will generate the ability scores. If the rules, like in D&D, give you variants to do so, ask the DM which ones are allowed. Generate a full set of ability scores first, then begin assigning them based on your backstory. A street kid would have a lot more constitution than a noble lady who never faced any obstacles before. Somebody who spent most of their life with books would have a much higher intelligence score than somebody who spent their life in a forge. Wisdom would be for someone who had to trust their instincts all their life. Time to pick your background. If your DM allows the custom background rule from the player's handbook, use it to create a background with the provided rules. This will make sure that your background in-game fits your character's story, not the other way around. Fill in the missing details like alignment and faith. Come up with things that match the background you created in part 1 of this process. During the last step, you will customize your equipment. If your DM by any chance allows you to use the buy method for your equipment, use it. Pick items that represent your character's development up until now, their backstory, their past. And don't forget to add in some trinket to remind them of their home, their family, or somebody they loved. When you are finished with all of this, you will have a Gothic character, complete with a backstory, dark secrets, and a desire that will give your DM a hook to provide personalized stories for. As a DM, you will have a deep, unique villain or NPC your party can encounter at any time. You have their quirks, their weakness, and enough hints to give you an idea how to play them. One last thing I want to mention is the character artwork. This includes the token, but most important, the portrait. While you can always commission an artist to do them, I do understand that this is not always possible. There are some other resources you can draw from though. First, the DM's Guild provides some art you may use for your DM's Guild titles or in your private games. If you have some experience with an image editing software, Pixabay or Pexels can provide you with free stock images too. Edit them, use filters or anything like that to give them the look you want. And then there is AI. This is a very controversial topic within the scene, and my point of view is absolutely subjective, but I think that for your private game you can absolutely incorporate AI images. For now, have fun with your Gothic heroes, and I will see you next time. Bye!